this puppy. Okay, so now we are live on Facebook. We are recording, and hopefully everyone got the memo.
Which we just sent out half a second ago.
Yeah, like literally, right? We were going to.
We posted on Instagram.
Yeah, we were going to do the Facebook Live on, what do you call it? We were going to do it on our YouTube channel, but apparently it takes 24 hours to enable that feature for us. So if you have been looking for us, here we are. Hopefully you all make it here. So what we're talking about today is our community discussion around last week's topic, which was ego versus higher self. But first, can we just let our Patreons know the updates that we've made, love?
Yes, we posted both our Dear Diaries for the week of ego versus higher self. And we just posted today, which was super fun and exciting, the energy of the month. So we're doing a broadcast monthly for our Tier 2 Patreons.
Yes.
That gives the energy of the moons and anything that's going into retrograde. And we pull cards to match the energies, and we discuss what those actually mean and give you tips of what you can do, or just, inform you to arm yourself for what is to come.
Yeah, and for our first tiers, you all now have access to our Dear Diaries as well.
Yeah.
So
welcome to our inside world.
Yeah. I wonder if this is visible on Facebook. Like, who knows? Do you want to check that out really quickly?
I'm trying to Instagram to update people.
Okay. Oh, I didn't press go live, so maybe that's what I should do. Haha.
Oh.
So we are going live now, like seriously.
We just recorded a fake live one.
I know.
Just because it was fun.
We wanted to pretend that we were live on our Facebook page, but now we really are. So this is our first time doing this. So I guess what we should say too is thank you for being patient with us.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure all of this out, but next time it will be a smoother road, a smoother transition. And yeah, that's that. We're kind of stalling too because we're trying to give a moment to see if everyone can see this.
Yeah, and I'm working on posting on Instagram, and when it comes to Tiffany and technology, it's a slow go.
Yeah, and I actually
I
had the post in the Seeker Circle as well, but I don't know if any of them are following us. Hopefully they can see that we're live too. Oh. I don't even know how we get to see if anyone is joining us. I'll try to watch this from my phone just to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
this is fun. It says there's two. I was like, it says there's two.
You and me. Yeah. That would be us.
It's been a long day already.
Yeah. So while we are kind of like stalling here, I guess should share, like this morning I got up at 7 a.m. to do a Facebook Live for another group. Then Tiffany and I met right after that to record our Energy of the Month update for our Patreons. And then, it was like quick break. I had a shower and get my life together. And now we're here. So I'm excited. I'm glad that we're going through all of these little technical glitches so that as we go along, it is much more of a smooth.
Just the learning curve, just getting it out of the way.
Yeah. So really, again, to everyone, if you guys see this in the recording, if you went to our, what do you call that thing? Our YouTube, and you're like, where the heck are they? So sorry, it wouldn't allow us to do it today. So we probably will, just going forward, do our live events here in Facebook just to make it easier for you. So if you're following or watching this now, you can follow our page and you will be alerted whenever we go live, which will be bi-weekly.
I just alerted everybody on Instagram because I know that everybody's on their Instagrams just scrolling away, looking for things like this.
Yeah. Like, oh, come join us on Facebook. So, okay. So now, speaking of which, what we are talking about again is our ego versus the higher self. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that one person did leave a note for us. I think it was Joe, right?
It was Joe, yes. Thank
Okay.
you, Joe.
Thank you so much, Joe. We really appreciate you
Yeah,
sharing. And it was like a great one.
it was really good and insightful
Yeah.
notations
So
that
should
I'm
we
excited
start
to expand on.
with what she shared?
Yes, with what Joe shared.
Mhm.
Joe's here. Can you
Oh,
see her?
hi, Joe. Leave a note for us. I think it was Joe,
Uh-oh.
right? Oh,
Oh my
plug me
gosh.
back in. I just heard myself back. Like, what is that? What's happening?
It's so much
Uh,
technological things.
yeah, it's like way too
Okay.
much. Okay,
I
so
looked on my phone on Facebook and saw Joe made a comment, so she's there.
oh, okay. Well, hi, Joe. We're about to talk about the great comment you left us the other day.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
So
shoot.
there was three things that she left. Can you man the comments on Facebook Live while I'm talking?
Yeah,
Okay,
if
great.
any appear.
Great. There was three things, and they fell in a great order too. Um, so the first one, Joe noted that society encourages us to live in an ego state, and it's like the ambition and desire for material things,
Mm-hmm.
which is so true when you actually look at it. I'm just going to go through the three things first.
Okay.
The second one is without ego, you essentially get nothing done. So if you leave it to the wayside, there's no motivation. And the
Yes.
third thing she noted was that once you actually tune into your higher self, it's easier to hear it. So you can easily hear what it's trying to tell you.
So
Um,
true.
it
So
is.
which way are we going to tackle that one at a time? Those are all three like really, really good insights.
Yeah. So I want to combine one and two really quickly because I feel like ego gets a bad rap. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, Yolanda and I discussed this a while ago. Um, this is not a shameless plug. I'm actually pretty proud of it. But on my Mind Your Chakras podcast is, I think it's the latest podcast, is where we actually talk about the ego versus the higher self. And it was a podcast fully about that. And it was really great.
On
And
iTunes.
yes, it's on iTunes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so within that, we really looked at how the ego is like our tether to this world. So if we're our spirit self, we need the ego because it tethers us to this realm and having experiences. It gives us desire to be motivated and to explore, what we can do on the earth. So it's necessary. It's just very young versus the age of our higher self. So it needs to be learned. It needs to be taught and um, formulated to do what we needed to do rather than just running away with what its idea wants to do.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that, so society pushing us with desires, like playing on our desires and our ego. As I was thinking about those two things, I almost saw society is like the ego of planet Earth, and planet Earth is the higher self. Do you see what I'm doing there?
Yeah.
Like we
Mm-hmm.
need society to like give us all this kind of drama in order to create the things that we need to utilize in order to learn what we came here to learn.
Yes. Yeah, no, totally. And it reminds me of just the picture, like one of the posts that we have, I am period versus I am with the ellipsis. And, it's just like also what Joe pointed out. I mean, we do need our ego, it's part of like our personality, our decision making, what you said, Tiffany, what drives us and helps us to be motivated and take action, but also we're learning through the lens of ego. And that's really the thing. I think of when we think about it as like, okay, so we have this higher aspect, this higher consciousness, and we have this task of experiencing through the lens of ego while being supported by the lens of our higher self,
Mm-hmm.
all to help the ego, like you said, kind of like cultivating that the teaching of it, kind of like how we do with a child, like
Yeah.
helping it to become its highest expression. So it kind of, you can even think of it in that way, like your ego through your choices and your perspectives has an opportunity to evolve into its highest functionality. So just like when we look at like our chakras, you know, the balancing of them, we talk about balancing our energy, balancing everything in our lives. There's also a higher aspect and an opportunity to bring harmony and balance into the ego to help it become more aligned with that higher aspect of you. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things I think I'm glad is being talked about a lot more across the board, where people are starting to look at their egos not as, you know, this thing that should be demonized, but really understanding every aspect of who and what we are.
And what I think we need to take into consideration too with that is that the evolution of ourselves and time periods too, you know, like generations before us, they were kind of more in need of their egos to drive them to accumulate things, literally to survive, whereas we've kind of outgrown that in evolutionary stance, you know, so now we're going to more spiritual. So we're still trying to reconcile what generations before us needed to do within their own evolution and what we've learned along the way. So each generation is shedding these new layers of what is actually necessary.
Well, what you're saying reminds me of like the cyclical process and progression of the entire evolution of consciousness. So even going predating the generations that we think of more in more recent terms, like our grandparents and great grandparents, these things. Hey, I can hear me.
I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get comments up from Facebook. I'm having such
I have it up.
life right now.
No, I have it up.
I quieted it all the way down.
Okay. So, but if we back up way before then, my mind always goes back to ancient civilizations and how there were periods of time where people really did understand, and they had the periods that we call like the golden age or the golden eras, or those times where people were really in harmony with their spiritual nature and being able to experience this material realm. It's happened before. But like if we look at these stories from these ancient teachings, even throughout mythology, all of these things, it's like people reached this peak of awareness and understanding, and there were some who took that without their humility and like ego kind of raised up in that. And then that power, that awareness, that enlightenment was abused, and then it became destructive. And there comes the downfall of like ancient civilizations, downfall of like, you know, society, culture, what's being fed, just to like devolve, you know, like a deconstruction of the height of where we were, just to come back around to reawakening and remembering and starting the cycle again of like, man, okay, we got knocked on our asses. Now, how do we come back to that state of awareness and enlightenment, but not forgetting the implications of what happened in a more historical text, so we don't make those same mistakes. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting the way it does go, like all the way to the top and then crumble down and then come back up to the top and then
and it's almost kind of like that's what this human trip is about. So as I said before, you know, and as we're talking about all the things we talk about here, we are part spirit, we are part human. You know, we chose to take on that humanness to have an experience for our spiritual self, and if we didn't have the cycles then we wouldn't be learning anything. You know, we do want to evolve. And I think, you know, there is that point where it's like you get a half of a step forward and you fall 4 steps back, but you're constantly, slowly, gradually climbing, and hopefully you're adding to it. But within all of that too, you have the evolution of the individual selves as well, which we forget about. I know I do this. My mom gets on my case about this all the time, because like I'll call her crying about something. And because I think a lot of time my ego loves to work really hard to set things in order a way I think that they should go, and like work really hard to something and make it stick. And then it doesn't stick, or, you know, you get thrown back somewhere, and then like my ego can't handle it sometimes. So I'm like, but I worked so hard. Why? You know, but it's the idea where it's like, it's always going to keep doing that. You can work as hard as you want to get somewhere, but there's always going to be that cycle to push you further along your path of knowledge.
You reminded me of our attachment to control, like how we do try to control so much because we're in fear, because in a lot of ways we don't trust yet our higher self and our
Mhm.
higher awareness, because we have been fed, so many aspects of fear, but even through our experiences, we have come to fear many things. So like we do have a lot of attachments to that, attachments to our suffering, attachments to our stories, attachments to our history. And it does take a
Yeah.
lot of faith and courage and like practice to get
Hmm.
into that process of then going like, oh, okay, maybe I can, this higher self thing, is this right? That little inner voice that we all have sometimes that tells you can go another way, do it differently. And we feel like that tug of war that we talked about on our episode. The only way you will learn, any of us learn, that we can trust that aspect of ourselves and start doing it differently and help uplift the ego, is if we actually try it. Like we
Yeah.
can't just, you know, I mean, it sounds great, but we have to actually try
Willy-nilly
it.
put it out there and think it's going to
Yeah.
happen. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It took a
No.
lot of effort.
Holy crap. Every
Um,
day.
and I like that you brought up attachment because I think the word attachment in and of itself is defined by the ego trying to create its own identity,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's trying to like plant its feet down and say, this is who and what I am. So I need all of these things to define that, and they need to be here, and I need to be attached to it in order for that to stand true,
Yeah.
which pulls us further away from our higher self, because our higher self is actually what the truth is.
Yeah. And then that goes back to that, I am period versus I am dot, dot, dot. Because
Yeah.
like we come in here and I think we talked about this on the show, like how our family, like we get certain roles within our family. Then we have certain roles in our, circle of friends. And then we have these certain projections of even who people think we are. It might not even be true, but like people perceive us a certain way. And a lot of times we take on their perceptions and their judgments of us, and we kind of like amplify all this crap in these costumes and these roles
Oh, it's
that
so
are,
crazy.
yeah, they don't even resonate with who we are.
Yeah.
So I mean, but again, it's all part of our learning, and
Right.
it's kind of like comical in a way, like when you really sit and look at it, like what the hell are we doing? But we learn so much in the process.
Yeah.
That's the, I guess, fun part of it, is like when we have these realizations. And I mean, I'm thankful. I mean, if you think about it too, I'm thankful for my ego in that I've learned so much through it. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
because of my ego, I understand hurt. Like, I understand fear. I understand sadness. I understand a whole lot of crap. And I understand, you know, the other side of things as well, because through sometimes the highlight of our ego is where we also can see the other end of the spectrum, where we're like smacked into our humility and our
Yeah.
compassion and our understand all of, so it's a
Yeah.
great teaching tool.
I joke a lot of times when I get very overwhelmed, and that's easy for me to do, get overwhelmed.
Mhm.
And I joke a lot of times that I'm just going to go live on a deserted island and live off the land, because it's just simple and that's all I need to do.
Yeah.
And while there's a huge part of me that just wants to do that, there's the other part of me that's like, well, you'd miss all your arts and crafts, and you'd miss going to do these events, and you'd miss doing this with your friends, and even like working, you'd probably miss working and having a purpose. And it's true, and that part of it is my ego. And that's what the ego can do that's good, is motivate you to have these experiences.
Yeah. Well, now that you're saying that, it reminds me of too, like, I wonder what it is like, the experience of like perhaps being like a monk or someone who's not so entangled in the day to day, like,
Right.
typical society. Because
Yep.
on one hand, it's like that type of isolation or seclusion. I'm sure the ego becomes very loud, especially initially. And so there's like a lot of introspection and how much courage that must take. Because on one hand, we could look at that and go like, oh, they have it so easy, they're not dealing with all this day to day. But imagine they must be dealing with their shadow like full force, and their
Hmm.
ego, when they don't have the distraction of the outer world. But then even the level of compassion and dedication that would have to take to put yourself in such a state just so that you can help to maintain the upliftment of the collective. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's interesting the ways that we can work with ego. We can either work with it that way, like away and go deep into it, but ultimately contributing to, you know, the collective and helping everybody that way, or participating in the day-to-day and, you know, dancing with the ego in that sense. But we also have an opportunity to be aware of our responsibility and how we're contributing to the collective. So
Yeah.
it's interesting too, like how we have all of these different paths, but they ultimately lend us the opportunity to do the same thing.
Right. So Joe mentioned that even being able to learn at school, work, a computer, etc., ego is needed for that. And it's true, because the higher self don't give a crap about technology.
Okay.
It wants
It
nothing
has
to
its
do
own
with it.
technology.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
pure and it's good. And it's just like, I don't need that. I already know it all. And the ego has to learn it. And it's just like, you know, our spiritual lessons too. Just like the ego has to learn how to work a computer, it also has to learn how to work with bringing the spiritual aspect into
Wait,
the
but
physical
can
world.
we think about that for a second? It's a little
Yeah,
off
I would
topic,
love
but
to.
not really. But I just got excited about, thanks for that, Joe. The,
Yeah.
the idea of the technology of our higher self, because
Yeah.
this is where we come into the whole, like, our intuition. And, you know, some people can do, communicate through telepathy, or, you know, move
Hmm.
objects with their minds. Like, it's amazing how we are designed. And, like, yeah, it can sound like so, you know, extraordinary to people. Like, is that even true? Is it
It is
possible? But
extraordinary.
people do it.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
The how our body processes food and nutrients,
Oh,
that's
that's amazing.
outstanding.
Yeah.
So to tell me that like intuition and all those other things that happen is outlandish. And you know, what was the word you used? It was so good. I forgot what it was.
Extraordinary.
Extraordinary. I should have known.
Extraordinary.
Yeah. I had another thought too.
Our
I
white
got
blood
so ramped up
cells.
about that. I forgot where I was going.
I mean, the whole functionality, like our entire design, whether we think physically or energetically, like, we are phenomenal. You know,
Yeah,
it's unbelievable,
it really
our
is.
own system of technology that we have going on here.
Totally. And we take
Mhm.
that for granted, I think, sometimes,
Oh,
not
yeah.
like bearing witness to it. We just
Yeah.
expect it to do what it's going to do.
I think that's why too, I think this process of, like, doing this kind of work of just tuning into yourself, I think, again, for, you know, to some people that may sound boring, like, oh, I'm going to be an observation of myself, like, I know who I am. But when you start looking at yourself through these different lenses and really being open-minded enough to have experiences that are beyond anything you've had before, you're like
Hmm.
in a constant state of awe. You know,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like all of these years of doing energy work and meditation, these things, I feel like I'm in a state of awe every single day. Like, can you believe that happened? Oh my God,
Yeah.
can you believe?
It's this weird dichotomy, too, because, this is our dualistic nature. It's like the higher self knows all this stuff, it knows what we're capable of. It knows that all these things are supposed to happen. It knows how to make them happen. And our ego is the one that's like, holy shit. Oh my God, did you see that? I can't believe that just worked out. Just like in our monthly energy thing we did earlier today, the cards that we pulled that lined up, like
Yeah.
it makes utter sense that they would come up and be the perfect ones to give us the messages we need. But then on the other half, it's like, can you believe that I picked this card and it matches yours and it's
I
everything
know.
we're talking about? It's like, yeah, I feel like I'm constantly in awe too, where I'm just like, I know that's the way it's supposed to be and I know that it's right. But then on the other hand, I'm like, holy crap. Oh my God, is anybody else seeing this? It's amazing.
Especially when it's so literal. And I feel like one of
Yes,
the phrases I hear all the time, I'm thinking of this girl named Michelle. She says this, she'll text me all the time, like, Yolanda, you can't make this stuff up. And I'm like, I know, right? Like, you
it's true.
seriously, you can't make it up.
It's
But
true.
you just made me think of even the first time being in awe of, like, feeling an energy ball.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the first time feeling like, you know, playing with energy and feeling how tangible and the density of, like, it looks like nothing's here, but you can feel it, and you can
Yeah.
feel, like, the magnetic pull of, I mean, it's just amazing, really.
I,
When
I always think it's interesting too, because I get stuck here a lot with my human self and my higher self, and then my science self and my spiritual self, because the ego wants to make these things rational. And
Yeah.
I think this happens a lot too. You know, somebody would come in and be like, oh, you felt that energy ball in your hands because your nerves were doing this, because your mind thought of that, and then you made that happen. But excuse me, if my mind is making the nerves go off in my hand to feel
Thank
energy that
you.
may or may not be there,
Thank
you
you.
want to talk about
How
higher self
amazing.
technology? Like, come on.
Thank you. Right. Yeah. No, that is such a good point. And it's interesting how much we are, or a lot of people do have the tendency to discredit what they actually experienced. It's
Right.
you literally just like, this is what I love so much. The intuition class that I used to teach online, and people would say, I'd say, what came up for you? And they would say, I didn't see anything. So what I saw was blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what? Or they'd be like, oh, I didn't feel anything. You know what? But I saw all these colors, and then I felt a tingling over here. It's like,
Yeah.
we don't even realize how our automatic default so many times is to discredit, to try to rationalize, like,
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
haven't been told that this is okay and it's true and it's right.
Right.
Like, yeah, like, don't discredit your experiences. Like, really start to get to know what it's like to
And
play the technology of you.
yeah, I think that's what brings us back around to the beginning, you know, where society as a culture like lends itself to pursuing the ego. And it's just for that reason we're taught to discredit it, because we can't scientifically necessarily prove it all the time. Some stuff has been proven, but we lean into that discrediting because as a whole, the general population that makes up society, people are continuing this cyclical motion of discrediting it because they're afraid to step into their higher self. So, of course, a society is going to create itself on the higher population groupthink,
Yes,
right?
and then look at what Joe said. This is what I say all the time. Joe, like, oh, it was only high five. She said,
Yes,
and there's so much of
exactly.
science that we don't understand yet.
So
Yes,
much.
so
I have one
much.
friend that is like hell bent on being like society, 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 or not society, sorry, science, science,
Science.
science, science. If it's not science, it's nothingness, you know? And that's okay. Like there are people who are scientists and that makes sense for their world, you know? But if you're living in your own personal world where you're having anxiety and everything feels like it's falling apart and da da da, and you're going to lean so heavily on science that is this much of everything that we're existing in, I'd challenge you to step out of that and go maybe find something that science on paper in a lab on paper or whatever hasn't proven yet, and see if it works with you in your own self laboratory, because you
Right.
might find a whole new something that
I
somebody's
like that.
ego stopped them from testing it in a lab because maybe they couldn't prove it, and so their own ego shut that down right there.
I like that you say your own self laboratory, because that is, I mean, it's really like we are studying ourselves. And that's what all of this work is about. It's about revealing the truth of our nature, which can't be just understood or even accessed through the lens of ego and our analytical mind. That's
Mm-hmm.
why, again, like we keep hearing about harmonizing and tuning into not just the analytical, but also the intuitive, not just the material, but also the spiritual, not just the masculine, but also the feminine.
Yeah.
Like it's being given to us in so many different ways of saying, harmonize and bring in all of these different aspects of who you are to really understand.
Right.
But what you said too, it also makes me think of how exciting it is that a lot of people in the science community now are opening up and trying to understand all of the
Yeah.
metaphysical, and like how much more people are exploring like quantum theory and quantum physics and these things,
Totally.
and it's becoming more looked at from a lens of, not crazy.
Yeah. It's not
you know
crazy.
yeah, possible.
Unfortunately, though, definitely not money backed by big
Right.
pharma, which is that's another whole feat.
Honey, don't even don't you could you're gonna make
Okay,
our whole
okay.
Facebook things shut down on us. It's gonna be like, are
So
you
that's why
serious?
we're here doing this. This is why we're here being the metaphysical scientists. We're not getting paid to do it. It's because there's a need.
Yeah, but it also comes through, like what we've talked about before, trusting your own experience. Like Listen,
Mm-hmm.
look behind me. I have a lot of books, a lot that's not even in view. Okay. You can read books for days. You can go to every class under the sun, and your analytical mind is really gonna like pick it apart, try to make sense, light bulbs going off. Oh my God, it's so amazing. But it is nothing until you give yourself the experience of what these things mean. Let yourself
Right.
feel, have the experience of being still, connecting with your higher self, trusting your intuition, play. And that's another thing, like, don't be so freaking serious. Nobody is grading you on this. Like, don't worry about being right or wrong. Just look at it as like, this is your realm of experimentation to play,
Mm-hmm.
and be open to the possibility of what you may actually experience.
Yeah.
And then trust it. Trust your experience. Don't let your rational mind go, no, there's no way that really happened. Yeah, you really did see some blue lights swirling around your head. Like, yeah, it happened. Just
And stay calm
trust.
within that too, the trusting yourself when you see these things.
Mm-hmm.
I feel, again, if we're going to bring it back to society, the ego of planet Earth likes to tell us, like, oh, you're seeing that kind of stuff, you're thinking those kinds of things, let's get you on this medication.
Yeah.
So naturally, it puts us in a state of like, oh God, I'm thinking and feeling this, then I must be broken. And
Yeah.
then we seek out things to validate our brokenness, to confirm it, and then we try to fix it.
Well,
But
that's
it's only
another
because
thing.
we're approaching it from the wrong perspective.
Yeah, and that's it. I think that's the thing that's so, like, we're fortunate now too that a lot of people are waking up to the possibility that we just don't understand certain aspects of ourselves. Like things that we would have looked at before as, like crazy or out there, or oh, this is some, woo-woo BS. More and more people are having these experiences enough, and some people, scientists, whomever, are trying to understand like the effects on the brain with meditation and all
Yeah.
of these different practices, understanding what we're really capable of, and seeing that we just are, there's so much about us that we still don't understand. But
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? Who has the quote about like how we just, if we don't understand it, we just label it as crazy?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Anyway, we'll look
It
it
may
up.
have been me, because I think I label myself crazy all the time, because I'm like, what is this that's going? How do we explain this? I must be nuts. But yeah, and Joe just said that, and be brave enough to be open and own it, even if people might think that you're a bit nuts.
Yes. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. I mean, people thought all kinds of people were nuts, even, the geniuses. I mean, I'm sure people thought Einstein was nuts. They thought Tesla was nuts.
Oh,
They thought,
absolutely.
like so many people are considered crazy and insane that are ahead of their time. Now we say, right?
Yeah.
They're ahead of their time. But that's the thing too, is a lot of times if we can't have immediate proof, then we're so dismissive. But look at how many things throughout history were thought to be not true. And then it took
Hmm.
a span of time to look. I mean, people thought the earth was flat. I mean, come on. There are just so many different things that we experience that may not be validated by anyone else. But if we
Hmm.
believe it ourselves, we open ourselves up to understanding this technology even
Yeah.
more.
Right. And I mean, who's to say that even half the stuff that we think we can understand now, who's to say that that's even true? Sometimes
Right.
I'm pretty sure that all of this is just a video game, because I use my cell phone and that shit trips me out. I'm looking at it, I'm like, how does this thing even do what it does? Like, I push
Yeah.
this imaginary button and something shows up on my doorstep two
Right.
days later. That's crazy.
I
That's
know.
crazy.
I know. I
I'm
mean,
sure
we're
there's somebody that can
literally,
explain it because they understand like waves in the air getting to my phone. Like, that's cool, but from my perspective,
it
my cell
always
phone is
reminds
nuts.
me of Penny. Don't you remember Inspector Gadget? There was
Yeah. And
Penny,
oh
and
wait,
she had
and then
the
her dog with the collar microphones that came
Bone.
out.
I think his name was Bone.
Bone.
Penny, and I don't know what his name was, but she had the watch, which is now like an iPhone watch. The
Yeah.
eye
And did
thing.
she like talk into it and did
Yeah,
all these things? Yeah.
totally. And she had a book that was like digital. It was like an iPad, her
Yeah.
book.
Yeah. Totally.
And we thought like, oh my God, could you imagine? That would be so, yeah.
I'm pretty sure though, as a kid, by the age I'm at now, I really thought we would have had the tunnel that I could just get in the morning, and then I would be showered and cleaned and dressed and looking great for work.
Like the
But
Jetsons.
yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, we probably aren't that far off from that technology. I mean, now you could just get it all tattooed on.
I was like, oh,
Similar.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my
Getting a
God.
step closer.
I know. I heard a noise. I don't know if that meant someone told us something. No, I don't see a new comment. But yeah, I mean, I think there's so much. I mean, we could talk about the ego and higher self for days and days and days. But of course, we don't want to take your entire afternoon. But Joe, thank you so much for coming live. Like, we
Yeah.
really do want to, and this is all very new, but we are hoping to like build it up to where we have more community discussion around these things, because the more we exchange, the more we learn and dive in
Hmm.
that sea of possibility.
And the
Ooh.
more we can support each other as being nuts, or at least considered being nuts,
Right.
and dissipate the idea of
Yeah,
being,
dissipate that idea.
because
Yeah.
the more we each talk about all our crazy, then the less crazy it seems.
Yeah, and then we normalize all of these things, and then
Yeah.
people really do start to live into their higher awareness. And it's like,
Uh-huh.
can you imagine if it was like just this normal thing that our society started functioning, like everybody was in their like higher awareness and kind and compassion, like, woo,
Oh
we
my
could do
gosh.
it.
I'm trying to think if there's
Yes,
a
Joe, she
movie
took
like
a
that.
muscle.
I feel like they've made a movie like that, but I might just be wishful thinking, because they're probably like all post-apocalyptic type of movies where they need to like rebuild
I see
the
pictures of it
population.
like in my mind's eye sometimes in meditations, and I wonder if this is like reflections of like a past life experience, or if it's like reflections of what's to
Yeah.
come. But
Well,
either,
I think about it sometimes, because I get tripped up a lot of times when in communication with people, where I'm like, why, no matter how clear I'm describing this, are they not understanding the message I'm trying to get across? And also, like, they keep talking to me at things that are like missing the mark as well. And then I go off in my mind and I just think about the aliens. Oh, and also like when my physical body is like not matching what I needed to do, I
mhm.
go and I think about the aliens who like can just like talk to each other without even using their mouths to speak. Like,
Telepathy.
yeah, they just understand, and then they can heal their bodies too.
But
I
that's
haven't
the
met
thing
an
too.
alien, so I don't know if they can or not, but
Yeah,
Hollywood taught me a
but
little bit.
that's the thing, is like we always kind of like glaze over to it. We won't get into this because I know I'll send you on a tangent that we
Oh, Avatar. I did know a movie.
Avatar. Yeah,
They lived
I
in
love
that
the
like,
way they lived.
yeah.
But the thing that you're talking about, the aliens and their bodies healing, I mean, like just like what you touched on a bit ago, our bodies, it does, like, we're regenerating cells. We have these white blood cells, like the body heals itself as well. But
Hmm.
the component that we need to work in conjunction with it to support it is the mind, and
Yeah,
what we
for
are
sure.
feeding into the body system, which I'm sure we'll talk about as a whole separate episode
Oh
one
yes,
day.
we will, because it's one of my favorite subjects
I
too.
know. That's why I'm like,
Why?
don't
Because I
don't do
live it
it yet.
out every
Don't
day.
don't do it yet, Tiffy. We're gonna do a whole
Okay, okay,
show
okay,
about
okay, okay.
it. Wait, Joe said yes. I was thinking about Avatar this morning when they thank the animals after they kill. Yes,
Yeah.
and my favorite thing of that is where they would say, "Was it I see you?" How did they
Trying to
greet each
remember.
other? Wasn't it something like that, like "I see you," or they did something to acknowledge each other in their greetings? What was it, Joe? Do you remember? It was something like kind of like a namaste, but they did it in a more had more depth. I don't know if they like touched third eyes to each other, or they connected their tail things, something they did. She
Yeah, I
said,
don't.
yeah, it was
Oh,
that.
I know. Wasn't there like tail thing somewhere, like envelop another one, and they connected somehow?
Yeah, that they could connect to plants and trees and stuff. But
Yeah,
she said
yeah, yeah,
that's what
yeah.
they said is I see you. But they
Oh,
like
okay.
really genuinely like meant it.
Could you imagine if everybody like you came into encountered with was like, I see you. I see you,
Do you know the amount of
rather than I
tears?
see me in this situation, and here's how I'm going to react because I'm being led by my ego.
Yeah, like if we should do that like this week leading up to whatever our next topic is, being embodied. But if we had that experience of, yeah, like saying to each other, I see you, but not surface, not my judgments of you, not my preconceived notions based on all kinds of crap, but like
Yeah.
see beyond the eyes. It reminds me of, I know we're going to go soon, but it reminds me of, my first experience of it was in yoga teacher training. And then it happened again when I went to the Chopra Center for some kind of event. But in both of those, we had to hold the hands of everyone in attendance one at a time and just stare in each other's eyes, holding hands in silence with like Sonatum car in the background. So imagine, right? And you have to just stare at the person and see the divine in them. Like, that's it. So it's like you literally have to look beyond the eyes, like into the depth of a person. And all you're thinking is like, oh my God, I see this divine radiance in you. They're doing it to you. People were boohooing all over the place. It was like, it's the most amazing thing. I love it. It's like my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I think the easiest place to do that is with children.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I do it with my nephew
So
specifically and my niece. Yeah. Because that's like the best way to start, to start exercising it, of being able to really see people. Just look at children. They're so pure and they're so authentic with their reactions to things. And they haven't quite learned yet how to block that.
Yeah, and then build your way up to thinking about someone that you really like, oh, you cannot stand that person. If you could just hold them in mind and then allow yourself to sit with the idea that they're divine too, as long as it takes, just sit there and try to see.
It could take a while.
Yeah, it could take a while.
And you might have to revisit it. Like it might take months.
You can't get up until you see the divine in them. Just sit there and deal with it. No, but yeah, I mean, there's so many things we can do to really like give ourselves the experiences of all of this. And even when we have like a taste, like a quick glimpse of that feeling of that experience, so it changes you.
Yeah, it does. It pushes us into our higher self.
Yeah.
Well, and that's actually a segue into Joe's last comment of the three things that she mentioned. I don't know that it necessarily changes us, but it pushes us to exercise the higher self muscle more, right? So it shifts us into what we've already been capable of and what was already just sitting back there waiting for us to access it.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, no, go.
You go.
No, it just reminds me of the whole like thing we say all the time too, practice your practice. It's like keep consciously making the attempt until it just becomes your way of functioning.
Yeah.
It becomes the new habit, the new way of being.
Right. And again, that takes practice. And you fall in and out of practice. I do. I admit it.
Honey, what are you talking about? We talked about this, I think, on the first one. It was like, hello, like every minute you're making a choice of like, am I functioning from ego? Am I functioning from higher self? Sometimes it's like, F it, I'm going to go ahead and go with ego for this moment. But, as long as you have the awareness of it and you own it, like you take responsibility and accountability for it, that's also part of the work.
Yeah,
and at
for
some
sure.
point you have to start making decisions that are more supportive or more in alignment with what you say you're trying to do.
Because again, we're here doing this work and creating this community for everybody to join in on, but we're not on soapboxes.
No.
We are practicing every day. It just so happens that when Yolanda and I get together, we're very free with being like, would you listen to this shit? I'm perfectly okay with exposing the mistakes I've made or the things that have gotten to me, and here's how I've tried to fix it, or here's what I've tried to learn from it, and to share those experiences.
Yeah, and I mean, like we have dump truck loads of stuff to share with you guys. So I really hope that, our intention is again to grow the community. If you know people who would benefit from these conversations or enjoy coming in on these conversations, invite them. Tell them to like the page, because we are going to start doing our live events here. And then the replays will also be available on our YouTube channel. And of course we have our, Wednesdays are our events. Something's posting that. Oh, this is what's going to post on Wednesday.
Yeah, we did the live today because I'm going to be in monk training for 5 days, the next 5 days.
Yeah.
I'm doing a yoga training it's a 10-hour days for 5 days straight. So there wasn't going to be time for me to do live. So we brought it to you today.
Yeah. That's why I get so confused. Like, wait, what are we doing Wednesday?
I know the weeks get confusing.
Yeah. So the audio of this will be on our podcast on Wednesday, and the video will be on our YouTube. And then the following week, we are going to have an entire new topic, which is being embodied. So we're really excited to talk to you guys about being embodied and the effects of us not, and again, like the benefits of. So that'll be fun. Joe said, wow, enjoy.
Yes, thank you. I'm very much looking forward to it. I've come off of 2 months of some pretty hard, pretty exhaustive lessons that I've learned from a job, but I learned so much.
Speaking of which, I know we said this at the beginning, but in case anybody wasn't here, our Patreons, our first tier, you guys now have access to our Dear Diaries. And our second tier, we put up our Energy of the Month updates.
Which
today.
was super fun. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. And I'm glad we're in this new energy. Like,
me too.
Let's see what happens. So also, you guys, if you have any questions, anything comes up you want to share, just like you did, Joe, thank you so much for doing
Joe,
that.
Thank you so much for being on here with us.
And so interactive. Like, go ahead, put questions for us, leave it on this page. You can leave it on our site. Anywhere you leave it, we will respond. And we hope to see you in our next conversation.
Yeah, we're utilizing all of the ego technology to get this out there.
I know.
Get the higher self technology out.
Yeah. YouTube, Facebook, honey, like anywhere we could try to help, bring this community together and like help everyone feel supported. Like, we're trying our best. So we thank you really genuinely for being here and helping us to support that.
Absolutely.
Is that it? Are you ready to sign out?
I think so. I feel like we've really covered a lot, and it feels like it's only been 7 minutes.
And it's been almost an hour. Like, how crazy. I can't believe how quickly it goes by.
I know.
Yeah. So thank you. And next time it'll be an easier transition. Thanks for sticking with us, because the beginning was a little sticky.
It was a little sticky.
Yeah.
But we got through it together.
Yes, Dave. High five. And thank you, Joe. We see you.
Yes, we see you.
We see you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
lovers.
Bye.